There is a lot to cover on the home front, but we begin first on national security. In just a few hours, U.S. officials will be holding talks with Ukraine, and tomorrow a separate round with Russia in pursuit of a 30-day ceasefire. In the meantime, the Trump administration is ramping up the U.S. military presence in the Middle East, sending a second aircraft carrier to the region. We begin this morning with White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Margaret.
So the Iran-backed Houthis, they continue to fire at Israel. What is the last week of bombing achieved? And if you're holding Iran responsible, what's next?
Well, we've taken out key Houthi leadership, including their head missileer. We've hit their headquarters. We've hit communications nodes, weapons factories, and even some of their over-the-water drone production facilities. Just in the last couple of days, President Trump has decided to hit the Houthis and hit them hard, as opposed to in the last administration where literally weeks or months would go by with these kind of one-off pinprick attacks. And as a result, we've had one of the world's most critical sea lanes get shut down. I mean, these guys are like Al-Qaeda or ISIS with advanced cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and some of the most sophisticated air defenses, all provided by Iran. Just to, so everybody understands the impact here, the last time one of our destroyers went through the straits there, it was attacked 23 times. 75% of our U.S. flagged shipping now has to go around the southern coast of Africa rather than going through the Suez Canal. And keeping the sea lanes open, keeping trade and commerce open is a fundamental aspect of our national security. The last administration was not effective. The Trump administration and President Trump have decided to do something much harder, much tougher, and what we'll see, but I think will be much more effective.
So the president said he's going to hold Iran responsible as well. Envoy Steve Witkoff said in an interview that Iran had responded to this U.S. outreach via multiple channels in regard to a letter sent by the president. Witkoff described it as an offer to Iran to create a verification program so nobody worries about weaponization of nuclear material. Can you clarify, is the U.S. seeking the dismantlement of Iran's nuclear program or verification like what President Obama put in place back in 2015 and President Trump pulled out of?
Full dismantlement. Okay. Iran has to give up its program in a way that the entire world can see. And this is, look, as President Trump has said, this is coming to a head. All options are on the table. And it is time for Iran to walk away completely from its desire to have a nuclear weapon. And they will not and cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapons program.
That's enrichment, to the
that is weaponization, and that it's strategic missile program. Can you only imagine? We've seen the death and destruction that they're doing through its proxies between Hezbollah, the Assad regime, the Houthis, and what have you. If they had nuclear weapons, the entire Middle East would explode in an arms race. That is completely unacceptable to our national security. I won't get into what the back and forth has been, but Iran is in the worst place it has been from its own national security since 1979, thanks to Hezbollah, Hamas, the Assad regime, and its own air defenses being taken out by the Israelis.
So there's still a chance for diplomacy. I know you don't want to get into
Of course. I mean, the president has all options on the table, but we want to be clear. This isn't some kind of, tit for tat that we had under the Obama administration or Biden. This is the full program. Give it up or there'll be consequences.
I want to ask you closer to home what has been happening here with Tren de Aragua, TDA, we're going to call them, which have been designated by the Trump administration as terrorists. Last Saturday, 238 Venezuelan men were handed over to the government of El Salvador. 137 of them were deported using this rarely used 1789 Alien Enemies Act. This is important because it gives the power to detain and deport without a court hearing first, if they come from countries at war with the U.S. In the hearing on Friday, it was revealed that El Salvador, where they're being held, rejected two of the people. One, on the basis of gender, because it was a woman and they can't be held at a maximum security prison. The other, because the person wasn't even Venezuelan at all. How does that kind of high consequence mistake happen?
Well, these kind of one-offs we'll deal with on an individual basis. But Margaret, the underlying issue here is twofold.
So there was a mistake that you acknowledged.
I can't speak to those individual cases and the details of the individual cases. But what I can speak to is President Trump has determined that this group is acting as a terrorist organization. It is terrorizing our communities through attacks, torture, rape, and the most awful of situations for those communities, number one. And number two, the Alien and Sedition Act fully applies because we have also determined that this group is acting as a proxy of the Maduro regime. So
I'm sorry, just to clarify on that. This is supposed to apply if the U.S. is at war with a country. You are saying you have evidence that the government of Venezuela is directing these gangs?
We are saying that TDA is acting as a proxy of the Maduro regime. This is how the Alien and Sedition Act applies. And we cannot have district judges interfering with the commander-in-chief's actions to take care of, in the way he deems necessary, a terrorist organization.
So the U.S. is at war
and I
with
got to tell you,
Venezuela?
we can debate on Article 2, Article 3. That's a fair debate. However, in this case, the commander-in-chief, President Trump, is taking decisive action to rid our communities of these gangs that are operating in a paramilitary fashion, and that we know Maduro is deliberately emptying his prisons in a proxy manner to influence and attack the United States.
But that's so different.
That's how
the U.S. is not at war with the country of Venezuela. I know the Attorney General said on another network she thinks this is going to go to the Supreme Court.
Sure, that's
you
fine.
Want
but
to have this
no,
fight.
But Margaret, we have instances where the IRGC from Iran have operated to buy with and through Mexican cartels to then bomb facilities here in the United States. We've taken decisive action in that regard. We're going to take decisive action in this regard. And we're making a Washington, D.C. distinction when the American people are tired of being terrorized by these gangs.
No one is defending gangs, but but
it sounds like it. It certainly sounds like it from the Democrats on the other side. It sounds like in the case of this judge that wanted to turn a flight around full of gang members that had intelligence packets that had determined what they're doing.
To a man's prison. And El Salvador said no.
I mean,
so it's a question of if you are suspending the ability to have a day in court, that you get the list right. That you can verify that these people are gang members.
Look, every one of them were here illegally. So first of all, we had every right and should deport every one of these individuals. If you want to make a special case for one, that's fine. But underlying that is the Alien Act that has determined the commander-in-chief has the absolute authority to do this.
We'll talk about this more with the Homeland Security Committee Chair Rand Paul ahead, I'm sure. I need to get to Ukraine with you because this is active diplomacy, as we mentioned. The Ukrainians accepted this U.S. ceasefire without preconditions, according to the announcement. The Russians said only holding back on energy infrastructure. What's the goal out of these talks that are about to begin in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, well, first, we're moving closer, and we're closer to peace than we ever have been. This started with President Trump talking to both leaders back to back. We then, Secretary of State Rubio and I engaged the Russians, engaged the Ukrainians at our level. And now we have technical teams actually with Ukrainians and Russians in the same facility conducting proximity talks. And the progression will be, we have this ceasefire on aerial infrastructure. That went in place immediately after President Trump's call with President Putin this week. We are now going to talk about a Black Sea maritime ceasefire so that both sides can move grain, fuel, and start conducting trade again in the Black Sea. And then we'll talk the line of control, which is the actual front lines. And that gets into the details of verification mechanisms, peacekeeping, freezing the lines where they are, and then, of course, the broader and permanent peace, which will be some type of discussion of territory for permanent peace and a lasting peace. What the Ukrainians tend to talk about or have talked about as security guarantees.
One of the things the president has said he wants to see is the return of these Ukrainian children who were abducted as part of a state program by Russia to Russify them, take them from their families and move them into Russia. why did the State Department cut off funding to one of the programs that helps find these kids? It's a Yale University program. And they said the money was cut off. There are senators, including Grassley and Tillis, who want to know why. Do you know why?
Well, Secretary Rubio is conducting a review of all of those programs. I can't speak to that specific one, but I can say that President Trump has spoken to both leaders about prisoner exchanges. Both the Russians and Ukrainians exchanged prisoners, nearly 200, immediately following their call. And he's also talked about the future of these children. So that's certainly first and foremost in kind of confidence building measures. But again, Margaret, we have to take a step back. Just a few months ago, no one was talking about how this war would end. And we have to ask ourselves, what would it look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? We were in an endless stalemate here. And now we have both sides in the same facility with the United States really living out, I think, in real time, President Trump's vision to end this war, which he campaigned on.
Just to be clear, are you asking for the release of these children as a confidence building measure? Is that what you meant?
We're talking through a number of confidence building measures. That's one of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Waltz.
All right.